Early nominating contests build momentum for 2024 contenders seeking the White House. C-SPAN is the place for political campaign enthusiasts, with unfiltered coverage surrounding the early primaries and caucuses, as well as speeches from key battleground states. Whether you're interested in your state's race or want to follow all of the political events, you can get immediate access to what the candidates are saying, plus nominating results in real time with the free mobile app, C-SPAN Now, or watch live on the C-SPAN networks.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters. You know, like you do. After 15 years, they made television history and built a community of dedicated and lasting fans.
Sure did.
I'm Rob Benedict, and I played God, a.k.a. Chuck Shirley.
Yeah, you are, and yeah, you did. And I'm Richard Spade Jr., and I played the Archangel Gabriel, a.k.a. the Trickster, a.k.a. Loki. I also had the privilege of directing a bunch of episodes of the show.
Have a few more AKAs, why don't you? Jeez.
A.k.a. you're a jerk.
Though we've been involved with the series for years and multiple seasons, we never sat down and watched the entire show.
Oh, that's not true anymore. Now we're deep into it. We are going episode by episode and diving in with the folks who made it to bring you an insider's point of view and some great behind-the-scenes stories from the writers, producers, crew, and actors. And you're getting our pure, honest, unfettered reviews.
And along the road, let me tell you, we're becoming fans.
Buddy, we are super fans.
We've heard you saying it for years, and we finally get what all the excitement's about. This show holds up after all this time and deserves to be watched and rewatched.
We will be hitting on some spoilers, so consider yourself warned. And if you have any angry emails you want to send, please direct them to Babo.
Thank you for joining our journey and listening to Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, it's Rob Benedict.
And Richard Spade Jr.
And we're on Season 4, Episode 11, Family Remains.
Family Remains. I mean, that's an ominous title, because I know it's any of the show you might go, oh, that's the family stuck around.
Yeah, they stay back, yeah.
You know, that's not what it means.
No, we're talking body parts.
Yeah, we are. By the way, I don't know if you know this, Rob, we're halfway through Season 4.
We're halfway through Season 4.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
This is what we call intermission, I guess.
It's halftime.
Or halftime.
Of Season 4.
Exactly.
So go get something to drink.
And the musical act will be right out to blow your mind.
Exactly.
You know, Robbie, why don't you do the thing that you do better than anybody on this podcast and summarize this son bitch?
The episode opens with a man being frightened by a ghostly young woman who suddenly murders him.
Yeah, that would be frightening.
Elsewhere, Sam wakes up in the backseat of the Impala to find Dean looking for their next case. Sam complains that they haven't stopped working. Dean says he has just the case about a man who was murdered in his locked home.
You know, Sam's a complainer.
Yeah, well, maybe. But when Sam and Dean arrive at the house in Stratton, Nebraska, it has been emptied of everything and there is a for sale sign out front.
Sounds like somebody's trying to sell their home to me.
Yeah, so far no mysteries. The brothers are surprised to see a family and a moving van driving up. Sam and Dean pose as building inspectors and tell the Carter family that they can't move into the house. After the boys leave, the family moves in anyway.
I don't think you should stop the Carter family from doing whatever they want to do. They're the cornerstone of American music. I mean,
right.
The Carter family singers were literally the linchpin of country music at its inception.
That's right.
And then, of course, June Carter went on to become the backbone of Johnny Cash. And some of the music they created together, practically American national anthems. Why would you tell them they can't move into their house?
You cool if I get back to the podcast, or...
You're in a mood. All right, fine.
The Carter's son, Danny, encounters a girl, the same one from the opening.
Hey, Rob, have you ever encountered a girl?
Oh, sorry. I got thrown by him and his Carter monologue. Sam and Dean investigate the murder and interview the housekeeper of Bill Gibson, the man who was recently murdered. They learn that Bill had a wife who died unexpectedly in childbirth, and his daughter Rebecca hung herself in the attic soon after.
Ooh.
The boys believe that these must be the spirits haunting the house.
Yeah, that must be the case.
The Carter's son, Danny, encounters a girl.
Robbie, you've ever encountered a girl?
I knew you had that joke you tried to make earlier and you were going to retell it. There. The Carter's son, Danny, encounters a girl, the same one from the opening. When confronted by his parents, Danny says that the girl told him He is welcome to stay, but all the adults must go.
Get out of here, adults.
Kate, the Carter's daughter, while sleeping, feels something licking her hand. She believes it's her dog until she sees the dog arrive in the doorway. She screams.
Fido, what are you doing here?
Sam and Dean happen to be outside and rush inside the house. The brothers try to convince the family to leave, but discover that all the tires on their vehicles have been slashed. Even all the weapons in the Impala are gone.
Oh, man.
Oh, that would drive me crazy.
Right?
Yeah. They head inside the house and take refuge in a circle of salt, believing that they are being attacked by a ghost. However, the girl from inside the wall walks through the salt ring and attacks the brothers, proving that she is not a ghost, but just a really dirty, pale person. Freaked out, everyone runs outside. They realize Danny, the boy, is missing. The dad, Brian, and Sam go to search the yard. Uncle Ted and Dean go search the house. Inside the home, Ted gets killed by the girl. Dean discovers hidden passageways, and Sam has found a diary and discovers that Bill was sexually abusing his daughter and got her pregnant.
That's gross.
Oh, very gross. The girls in the walls must be Rebecca's daughter. They find Danny tied up under the floorboards. Suddenly, Dean is attacked by a boy that was living in the wall as well. Dean shoots. When the girl attacks Kate and her mother, Brian arrives and stabs her. Later, the family decides to stay at the house to try and restart their lives. Not the best idea in my book. Dean says he feels bad for the children, that they were tortured so bad they became murderous.
Yeah, it's all arrows point to bad parenting. All right, well, let's dive right into this, shall we?
First question is, who is the boy in the wall? Her brother.
Hold on. We got to intro this before we can talk about this. Come on now. You know how this show works. It's time for Rich
Review. So who is the boy in the wall? He was the brother. When did she get a brother, and who was he? Was he also...
Maybe he's not a real boy. Maybe he's a quote unquote boy in the wall, like an emotional boy. Like we all have a boy in our wall. You know what I mean?
Oh boy, okay.
Could be that kind of thing.
All right. But I'm confused by who birthed who.
You know what I'll tell you? One way to avoid this whole kids in the wall scenario, have normally sized walls. Like my house, ain't no kids roaming around the walls. You know what I mean? Like, those are microbes.
Yeah, true. Or a squirrel. Sometimes I'll get a squirrel in the attic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the squirrel, the occasional rodent, but there's not a lot of children running along the walls because the walls are normal wall thickness.
No.
You know?
Yeah. And this poor family, it's had horrible things happen to them. Their oldest son was killed in an accident, I think, car accident.
Yeah.
And now the young one was kidnapped for a little bit by a girl who was living in the wall. But they are going to decide to stay at this house and make it work.
Yeah, I never get that. There's a couple of things I don't get. That one is sort of the classic horror movie trope of like, okay, I know there's been this place was essentially a slaughterhouse for decades. But you know what? It's got a lovely wraparound porch. Let's see if we can't just force our way to love it. You know what I mean? That always seems like a big reach.
Yeah. I love Jeremy Carver. I think he's one of the most talented writers ever to write. One of the best. And I love Phil Sgriccia. I love all of his episodes.
One of the best.
This was not my favorite episode.
Not one of the best.
No, I found it a little bit tough to get through. And, and there wasn't a lot of movement with the overall arc of Sam's powers and Dean's experience in hell. And
you're an art guy for sure.
And it wasn't at all supernatural. There was nothing supernatural in it. So it wasn't my favorite. It felt a bit contrived. And again, the actors were doing their best. It didn't. Yeah,
it wasn't my favorite. I'll give you that. Like I kind of think we're on the same page. I thought obviously those two guys, Jeremy and Phil, literally do some of the best work the show ever saw. This is just one of those episodes when you're generating 22 a season. Not everything's going to be a Stapleton, It's not going to be a series of 1970s logins. And
100%. And when you have, and this is maybe, now when series are on the air, well, like streaming series, they're 8 to 12 episodes, right? And this is 22 episodes in a season, even more of a reason that some of them are going to be not pack as much of a punch. And this has been an amazing season. Like almost every episode has been great. Yeah. So,
So you gotta, like I said, not every at-bat is a home run. I thought it was, there were enjoyable moments for sure. But overall, as a cohesive episode, it wasn't my favorite either. Well, the one thing I was going to say, this is just sort of a recurring thing. I realized that, like, if Supernatural as a series has an Achilles heel, it is, in my opinion, that the guest stars, the characters that surround each episode, that fill each episode, really have to have a blank spot in their brain when it comes to disseminating someone's age and authority. Because Sam and Dean can literally say they are anybody, and people go, really? You're the president's security detail? Okay. You know, they're like helicopter pilots. All right.
Right.
I mean, I feel like anytime those guys who still look like they're 22 and 23 respectively.
Sam's got really long hair.
Yeah, and they're never wearing uniforms.
Right. Just
of
suits.
the official. You know, they just say there's some official title. People are like, okay, well, here's my life story and all of my bank account numbers.
Well, they're like, and they're like, I actually told this to the FBI and the CIA and the local police, but I'll tell you.
I'll tell you, game warden, or whatever the hell. Yeah, it's so bizarre. This is no different. Like building inspectors, like you'd see those two yahoos tripping out your front door and go, yeah, building inspectors. Like, right.
Yeah. And we also talked about this off air, but the role of the uncle, again, an actor I've seen before, great actor, but it just didn't make sense what the uncle's purpose was other than just to die. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's just the role of uncles in general.
Wow. Ominous.
All right, let's give an actual like facial hair component to this thought process. You know what I mean? Let's get into that.
Patchy. Something patchy.
Man, not good here. I'm going to have to go Orlando Bloom in Pirates of the Caribbean. Just like somebody trying to grow something and it just ain't working. And even the makeup department kind of adding a little pizzazz to it doesn't really fill it out. So I'm going to go Orlando Bloom in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I'm going to go with whatever beard the brother who lived in the walls had that we didn't get to see because it was too dark. But whatever beard he had, I'm sure it was patchy.
Okay, there we go.
So
Rob is so on thin ice with this episode that he's not even going to give you a significant beard recommendation. It's going to be like, I imagine this is probably a patchy beard, and that's what we're going to go with. Okay,
it's dirty.
The Orlando Bloom and perhaps that guy's beard.
No, the brother who lived in the wall. It's a more positive on my side person might say, oh, timely, relevant. It's a character in the episode we just watched.
They're not on this podcast. That's
and to that person, I say, you're welcome. Hey, we got Uncle Phil coming back. That's
one of the best. Literally one of our favorite people to have on the show.
That's right. Our favorite recurring guest star of our podcast and also producer, director, and overall great person, Phil Sgriccia. Hey, Phil.
What are we talking about today?
So we're talking about 411 Family Remains with the one and only Uncle Phil Sgriccia. Welcome back, Phil.
Hi.
Yay.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me back.
You recur so much, we're going to have to bump you up to regular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're on our podcast.
I get series regular?
We're working on it.
Big pay bump for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get like 100 times more money than what you're getting now. So what's 100 times 0?
100.
It's like, at least 100. Zero.
Well, actually, 100 times 0 is 0.
0. So there you go. You get
that's
we're starting with that number.
Phil, we might be able to bump up your trailer to a little bit double banger.
Whoa, Robbie! Whoa, family show! Come on, man!
All right, so Family Remains is the episode we're talking about. Is Family Remains a reference to anything specific? This season, there are a lot of pop culture references in the episode titles, but I just thought maybe Family Remains was sort of a double entendre.
Seems like it. You'd probably have to ask. I think Jeremy wrote this one.
Yeah.
Carver. I mean, I think it's a kind of a when you realize what the story is, it's different. Also, it kind of plays on the family that's trying to get their lives back together after they lost a son,
their other son.
And they're all they're trying different things, and nothing seems to be working. So why not move out to the country?
Right.
I will say though, I understand the thought behind the question because I was racking my brain to think of what 1970s classic rock song was called Family Remains. I was like, wait a minute, there's got to be...
The only thing I came up with is the song remains the same.
Song remains the same, yeah, exactly.
But it was like family, like what remains of this family. And also, I guess that's how I interpret what remains.
And also the family at the house,
Right.
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 The
exactly.
scariness of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like directing the non-supernatural supernatural episodes.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to still be, they think it's a ghost for, we think it's a ghost until Mandy, our young woman that lives in the walls, crosses the line, of salt.
Right.
Up until that point, it's so you kind of have to keep it as if it's a ghost story.
Right.
And by the way, Mandy was so fantastic. We bumped her up into the credit world. So she got upfront credit because she was a non-speaking role, and those roles are usually, they're not, upfront credits, but
credited. Yeah.
We all felt really strongly that she did such a great job and really made the episode what it was that we, bumped her up. Wonderful person. I think she had gone through some health issue before this. So this was kind of like her coming back a little bit. I don't know for sure what it was. I remember something.
Oh, cool.
I remember something like that. Anyway, but yes.
And then, of course, Dylan Minnette went on. He's works a lot. He was the lead of 12 Reasons Why, that series that was so big on Netflix.
Yeah, Dylan was great. Everybody was great. I mean, it was a good cast. Supergirl was on.
Oh, really? That's Supergirl?
Yeah.
Wait, which
Wait,
she's the
which one is Supergirl?
The mom.
Oh,
the original Supergirl.
Oh, from us growing up. Didn't put that together. I still felt like there was sort of some Sgrician level humor in here. I mean, I don't know if this bit was supposed to be funny, but the dog licking the girl's fingers and she realized, and then the dog comes to the door was, I mean, I don't know, man. I know that's in the script, but it's just a very Phil, dark humor execution of that bit in a way.
Jeremy has a pretty dark sense too. So, I mean, it's that sort of thing that's fun because you're leading the audience one way and the daughter is having a hard time. And then the door opens and there's Puppy. And you're like, oh, that's not right.
Yeah. And what was under the bed?
Yeah. It was too...
and the sound. I mean, the sound is so gross. Phil's like,
Thanks,
awful.
Mike Lachey, for all the sound there. It was all.
Yeah, I know, but it just reeks of you two in the booth going, turn it up, add more juice.
It needs to be wetter.
Yeah, wetter.
Just hold that thought. We're coming right back.
Early nominating contests build momentum for 2024 contenders seeking the White House. C-SPAN is the place for political campaign enthusiasts, with unfiltered coverage surrounding the early primaries and caucuses, as well as speeches from key battleground states. Whether you're interested in your state's race or want to follow all of the political events, you can get immediate access to what the candidates are saying, plus nominating results in real time with the free mobile app, C-SPAN Now, or watch live on the C-SPAN networks.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And now back to the episode.
It's said that this episode was an homage to the X-Files episode Home, which Kim Manners directed. Kim passed away soon after this episode aired. Was Kim aware of the similarities, and was that a conversation you ever had with
I never had one with Kim about it. Kim passed away in January. This was in October. This was the Halloween we shot this on Halloween night, and there was a whole bunch of hijinks with the crew going on. Part of it was me doing it, but out at that house, we were at the house probably 5 days, because there wasn't that much more. All the basement and some of the dumbwaiter was rebuilt on stage with Jerry and his team. Jerry Wanick, our production designer.
But the house is the same one used in Home.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that house got used forever. I think we used it probably more than once. We just painted it a different color. It changed over the years a few times. So I know when we had it, it was kind of like, oh yeah, let's go there. That'll be good. It's out. It looks like it's out in the middle of nowhere. It really isn't, but it looks like it. And that all worked.
And then what was house and what was stage? Do you remember?
All the basement and in the walls were we built. And then there was a connector kind of part where the dumbwaiter that they broke into the kitchen there. That was a doorway that Jerry built a thing so it looks like it goes downward, so I could shoot up and down. And then the rest of it was on stage. So we changed over.
When you say it looked like it went down, it didn't actually go down?
Well, because it was actually a doorway that Jerry covered and made it look like a wall. And so there was an opening there, and he built in the slats and everything that make it look like it went downward. And I could put a camera on the floor looking up, but I couldn't look down. I looked down. Their point of view was shot at the stage, looking down, because we had
looking at the floor.
Same thing. So we had pieces at location and pieces on stages.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it makes me appreciate that part of the episode even more.
Well, it's one of those things where, you know, to actually find a basement like we had, it would have been smaller than what it is, even though it was really small. And a lot of people were banging their heads because this was a real low ceiling set with a dirt floor that Jerry built. I asked them not to make it comfortable because I wanted everybody to feel like stuff down here. You know, Jensen going through the hole in the floor.
Yeah,
we purposely made that a little smaller, so he had to fight through it a bit. There's, you know, I'm always into making it the real thing as much as you can, and then trick the audience, you know, however you need.
Right.
I got to say, when you started the answer to that, and you go, "We were all banging our heads," I thought you meant like there was an analogy, like we were so frustrated.
No. We were actually
how to do this.
Nobody wore. We told everybody, take off your hats, because you're going to walk right into a beam, you know, and have your hand, when you walk, have your hand above your head so you bump into something with your hand first. But yeah, I mean, and, you know, all the gristle and the dog stuff and the rats and everything. It was super fun stuff.
I feel like, and I don't know if you can recall if this actually happened, but I would bet big money that at some point Brad Creaser bumped his head and got really pissed off. I'm just going to go on a limb and say that happened.
I don't know. You'll have to ask Brad that.
And probably cursed your name in the process.
Thank God Jared didn't have to really go down there much.
Oh my God, yes.
Jensen had to do all the work underneath there.
Yeah.
You know, and it was open on the edges, so it was just the stage. So, you know, you could go underneath and walk in and walk out pretty easily. It wasn't, I mean, the ceiling was brought down.
So that those half-eaten rats that are on the floor, who would have made those?
Props would make those, and if they had to be edible, props would also have a food stylist that somehow maneuvered what we needed to have happen. Most of the time, it's some form of chicken. When Mandy takes a bite, there's usually there's a blood pocket in there too. So when she bites it, switches out. It's all.
That's so gross, and it's so gross. Also, the killing of the rat, which is off camera, by the way, but like she just goes like, and it's just
we shot that. If you noticed a difference in that scene, that was shot in a completely black space.
Well, it's night vision or something, right?
It's an infrared camera that we used because I said, you know, it'd be scarier if there's no light. And Brad shot it. The only glow was in the monitor on his camera but he couldn't see his way around. You couldn't go in there. We had it completely blacked off and no lights, no outside light. Because the idea was, where are they? 1, 2, how creepy and, you know, bad can we make it for this kid, for Dylan? And then, and then the girl shows up and we kind of leaned into it, which I found super fun to do because it's like it's a bit of a science project.
Yeah. You know, for a split second, I thought you would switch like to film stock or something just because it had such a grainy look.
It was just an infrared camera that could pick up everything that happened. So as she kind of crawls in, her heat emanates, so you see her. So
Rob's heat emanates.
And if you look at the close-ups, their eyeballs, their irises are gigantic because that's the real thing. They're trying to find the light.
So is that just a lens or is that a completely different camera?
I believe it was a camera because we were shooting film still.
Oh, trippy. Of course.
The whole show was still film. We didn't shift to...
Right.
So that is film stock. It's just a different exposure to it or different...
I believe so. It might have been a video camera. I can't remember. I know it was an infrared. And it was super weird. Brad would come out of it going, "Oh my God, I don't know what I just got, but I think I got it." You know,
right.
It was pretty fun to play around with because it worked and it gave us what we needed, which was the freak out.
Yeah, it worked. It was super gross.
So we're in the middle of the season here. We're Sam has a big arc about leaning into his powers, and we're finding out more about Dean's time in hell. Are the details of these mapped out for the directors? Like, I know you would know because you're sort of on the inside as a producer, but do the directors who come in, do they know where these storylines are going?
Yeah, during prep, we usually have a conversation probably with Jeremy at this point, or Sarah, or Eric. No, let's see. This is year 4, so Eric's still there. So it'd be Eric. Eric, probably Bob. They have a conversation, a tone meeting of some sort, saying, then if there's a thing that is in this episode that leads us to the next episode for the personal story of the boys, then we kind of shine a light on that with the directors, to say, make sure you get this because this leads to the next ep. So don't give us a walk and talk 2-shot over their backs. It's important stuff.
Right.
So
right.
It's usually in that. Those things are mapped out a little easier than each story, whatever the ghoul or monster is, because it's, it's the arc of the season that we're leading or we're pushing uphill.
Right. I would think that would be, especially if you come in as a director who just comes in and does one episode in the season and, then you move on and you go on to direct a different episode. Like, you don't want to give a direction that doesn't make sense for the character's arc. You know what I mean? The actor's going to know certain things like, no, that doesn't make sense for him. Because, you'd feel like a real heel. I'm sure Richard has this experience. Like, you really want to know what's going on.
We also had Parksopedia on board. So Kevin Parks,
sure, right.
one of our first ADs, you could just turn to him and say, Kevin, what happened at the 8th minute of episode 42? And he would rattle it off.
The thing I noticed in this episode, more than some of the others, is how much sound makes a difference. Not the soundtrack, but just the noises and the explosions when a wall breaks open, and the just like Rich said, the sound of the mouth eating her finger, licking her fingers, whatever. That really adds a lot just to the creepiness of the house and you're in a horror movie.
Yep.
Who does that?
It'd be Mike Lachey and his group. Mike Lachey was our sound supervisor for the whole run.
Oh, we've had Mike on the show. We love Mike.
And while we're shooting them, I know in my head, I'm always thinking, what's happening with the sound? Because being an editor, you leave time for that. It's like leave space for the echo. You don't want to cut everything too tight because the echo is going to, lengthen out the sound. So stuff like that, you want, the fight that we end up with on the dub stage is sound effects versus music. And is the music giving it away, or is it creating tension or whatever we need it to do? And then there's times when you say it doesn't need music, just let the sound play, because then it plays all of a sudden very real. As soon as you take away music, you've got a documentary of just natural sound or things that are happening.
Right.
When you add the music, you're now making a show.
Right.
Not that it's not needed and not wanted. It's just one of those things that, we find out in the cutting process or in the mixing process that you go, no, we need music here. This isn't working. Or we don't need music and we need sound to play. So the sound in this one was because you wanted to feel like they were everywhere. And once they open the wall of the closet and you see Dean kind of poke his head around, once there's an inner world there, it's like everything is sound because everything's black. So it's like the creaky wood as they're stepping. And even, Lachey would put in the cobwebs snapping, it's super, super small detail, but it was all there. So,
wow.
That's impressive. I'm sure there's a lot of sound I missed with my, tinnitus, but what I do here sounds fantastic.
I think it had to do more with the drinking, probably, Rich. Really?
Yeah, usually it is.
The combination. When I drink, my tinnitus gets more pronounced. So
I watched this episode on an airplane, so I had my my good headphones
on. Is another trip to Rome or something? Didn't you have one?
Rob, where are you off to?
Off to Rome or something again?
No, Richard and I just did a convention in Pittsburgh last weekend, and so
the Rome of Pennsylvania, they call it. It's always amazing to have Phil on. Nobody knows more about, everything TV related than Phil Sgriccia. Phil, thank you.
Is that it? We're done?
That's it, man. That's it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. Really awesome.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We are going to take a quick break. Hey, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Well, what can I say about Phil Sgriccia except for Phil Sgriccia? You know what I mean?
I have to say, talking to Phil made me appreciate the episode more.
Of course, because you realize the sort of detail that goes into it and, how he elevates everything on the page, and he's just so good.
Yeah, and really it is like, to anybody who's a hater out there, which I suppose I might have been at the beginning of this episode, like I really talking to Phil made me appreciate and the episode more. And, you appreciate once you realize how much work goes into something too. And the elements that you take for granted that are a little bit spooky, like, crawling around in the basement, crawling around the walls, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That actually was really good. And it's really good the way that you did that. So
right.
I don't know, just when you realize how much work goes into making the cake, you know what I mean?
Well, I think the real story here is that how many episodes of Supernatural are phenomenal. Like, there's only the occasional episode that are ones that make us go, meh.
Right.
And then when you hear about how the sausage is made, like you say, it makes you appreciate even the ones that aren't our favorites are still impressively executed.
Yeah, totally. Maybe the guy who lived in the wall who had a patchy beard, maybe it was a great beard, and I didn't know it because it wasn't light enough out to see.
Back to your beard analogy.
Hey, it's time for mythology. Surprisingly, there are a number of stories about people secretly living in an occupied house.
That's what the whole Broadway play Rent is about, isn't it, Robbie?
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind then. Here are two of our favorites. Robbie?
In 2013, some Ohio State University students discovered they were not alone in their off-campus accommodation after they found someone named Jeremy living in their basement. I first thought
that was Jeremy Carver, who went on to write this episode. Unbelievable.
I was going to say, I thought the person's name was Jeremy Living. They found someone named Jeremy living in their basement. Before the discovery, the students had often found their cupboards and microwave open and had heard noises. They only discovered Jeremy when they had a maintenance worker force open the basement. Jeremy was a student at Ohio State. Interestingly, one of the roommates had met Jeremy earlier but thought he was a visitor.
Man, what a freeloader, that Jeremy.
Well, and to me, it's on the original, the roommates, the Ohio State University students, like, yeah, I saw someone in the kitchen. His name was Jeremy.
Robbie, I hate to tell you this about the Buckeyes living in that house.
Yeah.
High as kites all the time. You know what I mean?
High.
They had no idea.
So, meanwhile, Jeremy Living was in their basement the entire time.
And here's story number 2. Robbie?
In 2008, a 57-year-old man discovered that food from his fridge was often missing. He suspected someone was breaking into his house, so he installed security cameras in the kitchen. While away, he received a video of a ratty-looking woman, that's a little judgy, taking food from the fridge. He called the police, believing it was a break-in. When the police arrived, they found the house locked up from the inside. They forced entry into the home and found no signs of burglary. The police searched the house. They checked a shelf above a closet and found a 58-year-old woman curled up in a ball. Apparently, she had been living in the closet for nearly a year.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
To be curled up in a ball.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow. But, the good news is that she was about the same age as the man who was living there, so maybe they could get together, have a date.
Perhaps romance ensued. If Hollywood gets their mitts on this one, it'll be a rom-com hit next fall.
Right? The woman in the closet.
Curled up in a ball. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for...
This is one of 6 episodes where the monsters are not supernatural. That's out of 326.
Yeah, that's a lot of episodes, and very few are not about supernatural beings, so this is one of 6. Wow, interesting. And by the way, did you know that this episode was directly influenced by the X-Files episode entitled Home? In an interview, Kripke said, we want to make an episode like the X-Files Home. Let's make an episode that the network will air once, and then people will complain so much that they'll never air it again. Well,
wow.
Egg on your face, Eric, because they aired it again.
Wow. Wait, so he didn't, what did that mean, do you think?
I think he wanted to be such a copycat episode that people would say, hey, you just copied a different episode from a different series. And they'd go, you're right, guilty, and never air it again.
That's funny. That's such a Kripke sense of humor. The house, located in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada, was also the set of the infamous X-Files Home episode. in which inbreeding and feral humans were also major plot points. Karen Konoval appeared in Home as the matriarch, and in this episode as the former house cleaner. Hey.
Ah, interesting. Little on-purpose Easter egg.
That's a fun fact.
A sign. Yeah, most of our fun facts, quite frankly, might not measure up to the level of fun. This one does.
Yeah.
A sign near where the Winchesters are parked at the beginning of the episode says, "No hunting." Good luck, sign.
Sam and Dean's aliases, Stanwyck and Barber, are a reference to the 1985 film Fletch. I did notice that.
It's not Babar. They don't say Babar.
I think they do say Babar. Did they say Babar?
I would think they'd say Babar. Stanwyck, Alan Stanwyck, is played by Tim Matheson in the movie Fletch. And then...
he has an alias. Fletch has an alias, Babar.
Dr. Babar, when he goes to get his prostate checked out.
He goes, 2 Bs?
By M. Emmett Walsh, the actor who plays the proctologist.
He was a great actor.
Great movie, Fletch. Big fan of Fletch.
2 Bs, just not together.
Exactly.
Babar. The girl licking the daughter's hand is based on an urban legend where a girl falls asleep and during the night feels her, quote, dog licking her hand. In the morning, she wakes up to find her dog dead with a note that reads, "Humans can lick too." Well, that's gross.
That's really gross. That's not a fun fact. That's a revolting fact. Do we have a new segment here called Revolting Facts? Ugh.
Man.
Well, on that upbeat note.
I want JC to do that to you.
Kill me?
Yeah.
And leave a note saying humans can lick too?
No, or you could do it to her.
Why would I kill my wife?
No one's dying in that little anecdote.
You didn't read that? It said that she wakes up and her dog is dead.
Oh, her dog's dead.
I'm not going to kill Luna, our dog.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you go a long way for a joke, but not me, buddy. I stop at murder.
I just want you to lick her hand and then write a note that says humans can lick too.
At K9 aside, no thank you, sir. I step out of that line, but there goes Robbie right to the front.
K9.
All right, well, best of luck to you. Jeez.
I forgot that the actual term for that is K9 aside.
Well, now you learned something, didn't you? A reminder. Everybody, thank you for listening. What an episode. You know what? We laughed. I don't know if you did, but we did. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters to us. Thank you for being a part of this.
And again, even though we didn't get full beards on this one, didn't mean we didn't enjoy watching it. And
yeah, I got a lesson to the kids who might be sour at our review. Life isn't all full beards, and you need to know that.
Ooh,
it's time you knew.
I see a new T-shirt being designed.
Damn right it is.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you at the next one.
This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester.
Guest stars included Helen Slater, David Newstom, Bradley Stryker, Alexa Nicholas, Dylan Minette, Mandy Payton, Gary Rousseau, and Karen Konoval.
Family Remains was written by Jeremy Carver, directed by Phil Sgriccia.
Editing by Anthony Pinker. Music by Jay Gruska.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
This episode originally aired on January 15th, 2009.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spate Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine. Written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
What's up, Booty?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Is it called X now? I don't even know.
I won't do it.
Me neither. At SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. And here's story number 2. Robbie?
In 2008.
What are you laughing at?
Because he always throw to me to do the talking.
Story Mill Media.